I kind of feel like ranting a little bit, and normally I write it down, but my handwriting is atrocious lately, and I don't really feel like adding to the clutter of stuff that's just gonna get lost in my room. So I figured I would say it here, and I feel a little strange posting it here, but I figured it might start some kind of a dialogue, or at least that's my hope. So the other night I was hanging out with a friend of mine who's a lesbian who I was seeing towards the end of last school year. I was seeing, not in a romantic way, but you know what I mean, just fooling around with. And she said that she finally came out to her mother, disastrously. And she then asked me if I had any intention of coming out to my family. I'm bisexual, and she knows that I've already come out to all my friends. And I told her that I want to, but I had a few caveats, of course. I don't really have fear of confrontation, but in this arena, I've been putting myself through the ringer just for years for various reasons. I began questioning my sexuality in freshman year of high school, and the only conclusion that I came to at the time was that I'm not a lesbian, which is not exactly conclusive, to say the least. During high school, I never really attempted to talk about it with my friends. I guess because I was worried they'd think I was hitting on them, or I don't know. We went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and it was kind of this whole big thing, and I wasn't really worried about being rejected by my friends, but I was worried kind of about being mislabeled by my peers for something I guess I wasn't really sure about, and I agonized over attempting to figure it out, and then I just got so fucking sick of it. I procrastinated figuring it out because it was way too frustrating. So I guess lesbianism wasn't something that was addressed at my school, let alone bisexuality, so I let it go and try not to let it annoy me. But it kind of continued in the back of my mind for a while. And going to college certainly helped me clear some things up, which is kind of cliche. But and among friends, I was never shy about admitting that I liked both girls and guys. But I made sure to keep certain boundaries in place among my roommates and my female peers on my floor, just for the sake of boundaries and for the sake of having people be comfortable, I guess. That's not to say that I didn't engage in the ridiculous, like, drunk girl makeout shenanigans that's so common in college, but I was never the one who initiated things just because I didn't want to make people uncomfortable. And during sophomore year, I sort of attempted to discuss things with a friend of a friend over coffee, but felt too weird being so intimate with a stranger over something I didn't really understand myself. But I was encouraged by the fact that my friends weren't freaked out by my musings on the topic, although I was still kind of uncomfortable with a specific identity at the time. And around this time, my best friend from high school came out as bisexual or lesbian, although she now identifies as lesbian. And seeing that none of our friends rejected her or even really seemed surprised was heartening, to say the least, given how strict and I guess at times repressive our school was. It was good to know that our friends weren't like that. Going abroad my junior year helped me to explore myself in kind of a new environment, an utterly new context, and to make wonderful new friendships. And I became very close with a newly out gay guy who agonized over telling his father about his sexual orientation, given that he had already experienced a great deal of cruelty and rejection at the hands of his father, physical and emotional. And this friend of mine is one of the quirkiest, kindest, most intelligent men I've ever met. And seeing him struggle to accept that his father might never accept him was heart-wrenching. What was tacit to the friendships I made while I was abroad, though, to the point that no one even ever discussed it, was that not a single one of our male friends cared that this friend was gay. No one was squeaked out about it. No one was worried about the undertones of their friendships. Everyone just kind of, like, made dick jokes, got drunk, and hung out together, and nobody really cared. And I guess I explain this as though it's remarkable, and I guess ultimately, though, the point is that it's not remarkable. The most remarkable thing about my trip is that it quietly helped me figure myself out and helped me realize that not everyone was going to make a big deal out of stuff that I was kind of making a big deal of to myself. Not that I was ever homophobic or anything like that. I just didn't, I don't know, I was processing. But I was able to figure myself out in some ways. And all my friends there jokingly and almost constantly called me a lesbian because they repeatedly called me making out with girls. And though I would remind, well, girls and guys, but I would remind them that it's not true. But the point was they didn't care if I was a lesbian or not. Like, it never fucking mattered. They just didn't care. So did it matter to me? And if so, why did it matter? Part of me worried about too hastily identifying as something without proper experience, like about copying something that wasn't actually true. Like, I didn't want to be the person that looked back and realized it was some sort of college phase, which I thought would be more harmful to the LGBTQ community than anything else I could do. And maybe that was me being cowardly, I don't know, but it took a lot of time for me to come to terms with. Nonetheless, I am reminded of a conversation I previously had with my mother over lunch one day, with my entire immediate family present, and I mentioned that I'd seen a shirt online that said "Straight Against Hate" from the Fuck Hate brand, and the proceeds go to charity. So I was considering buying that shirt, and this was when I mostly still identified as straight, mostly from lack of ever having figured it out. And all my mother had to say on the subject was, well, at least you're saying you're straight. It's not like we've ever had any evidence either way. And I responded with open mouth silence as she was pointedly ignoring my nearly 6-month relationship that I had with my ex-boyfriend. Apparently she deemed it unimportant in the terms of evidence. But a few years prior, she also tried to forcibly yank me out of the closet based on some suspicion she claimed my father had about my best friend. At the time, my best friend was engaged to a dude, and she was not out of the closet. And we were in the middle of having a sleepover at my house. My mother asked me if my best friend and I were dating. And I said no, because we weren't. And she tried to brush it off as concern that if a boyfriend were staying over, that would be inappropriate too. But I got the sense that the thing that mattered most was that I was somehow keeping some non-existent secret from her. And she tried to claim it was my father's concern, and it was whatever. Over the course of my adolescence, she certainly made like passing comments at political correctness and emotional correctness, saying things like, "I can't understand how anyone couldn't love their child," and if you refuse to accept that like the existence of homosexuality, it's like begging God to make one of your children gay or something like that. But she's also a staunch Republican, just like my father. And for the record, my parents are both pretty judgmental, but my mom is much more vocal about it when it comes to me personally. I'm the oldest, the only girl, whereas my father is just randomly sarcastic, and if he has something important to say, he'll probably just write it down on a list and hand it to me. Whereas my mom is a fan of random, emotionally charged outbursts. Every important conversation the two of them have ever had ended in, at best, raised voices and at worst outright shouting and constant swearing. I remember being 5 years old, standing at the top of the stairs, screaming at them to shut up from screaming. And I didn't learn how to communicate properly when I was angry, not from them. I had to learn to deal with my anger at my friends and my peers through experience, rather than watching my parents, who had no ability to control their emotions at all. I vaguely recall that they separated for a year when I was probably 5 or 6, but nothing ever seemed solved when they got back together, and they're still back together. And I still just continue to have to listen to them scream, as do both my brothers. I hated and still hate the idea of becoming either one of my parents. I try to act differently, and I tried to act differently. I've always been very opinionated and kind of angry about things that make me angry, I think justifiably. I mean, some things make people angry, it's just the way it is. It's normal. In elementary school, when I was dealing with my friends when I was angry, I was alternately kind of passive-aggressive, stupidly shy, and really argumentative about pointless stuff, looking back. But junior high, I brought like those stupid, bitchy, yelling girl fights and angry note writing on the playground. But high school was nicely subdued, I guess both because I made new friends and I grew a lot. I became more mature, and I gained confidence that let me speak my mind calmly with my friends. At home, of course, nothing is that simple. Even now, my mom treats me like the child I used to be, giving me condescending directions instead of treating me like an adult, and she wants to know every thought that flits through my head, seemingly so she can pass judgment on it. I don't know. she also doesn't understand boundaries and wants me to remain codependent on her somehow because she needs some kind of a constant emotional crutch, even though she refuses to listen to any guidance I may attempt to provide. When she asks for it, she doesn't take it. She just wants someone to be near and to talk at. And I remind her that the family is made up of introverts and we need time alone. And she claims to understand that. And I keep trying to tell her that even if she understands it, she refuses to respect it. And when I attempt to voice an opinion besides hers, usually about needing some alone time or needing to be away. And one thing I guess I always will be proud of is that she raised me to be opinionated and loud. I won't deny that I do love my mother and she loves me back. But whenever I try to voice an opinion that isn't her opinion, the conversations escalate. Answering her questions, even simple questions, becomes a ridiculous fucking minefield. And this is part because I get sick of her not listening to my answers or my instructions, even when she wants help or guidance in something. And it's partly because she seems to purposefully misunderstand the things I say. And it's also because I do not understand how to navigate in my family, given that we all communicate solely through screaming. It's exhausting, actually. I don't have the ability to silently check out the way my middle brother does. And so I rise to the angry bait she lays out every single time, even if she doesn't realize that she's doing it. And even when I attempt to explain things to her rationally, she seems to refuse to absorb it, and she disrespects my wishes at every turn, and then calls me an evil, abusive bitch when I get upset. And she says these things as if they're the truth, rather than her feelings, as if she doesn't understand my anger at her willful disrespect of my person. Over the course of the past 6 or 7 months, I've systematically come out to almost all of my friends. And my ex-boyfriend actually has also recently told me he's bisexual. And none of my friends care. Not a single one of them cares. None of them are surprised. It's a non-issue, which is fantastic and really sets all my fears to rest. But I'm hesitant to discuss it with my family, particularly my mother. She hates the idea that people might wait to tell her things. She's always hated that. She doesn't understand boundaries. And she was pissed when I didn't immediately tell her when I thought about getting a tattoo. She wants to live inside of my brain somehow, and she wants to outfit it in her way to her specifications, which is, again, exhausting, and it's really hard to live with that judgment. Why haven't I told her? I haven't told her because I can't bear to listen to her scream about this very intimate thing I'm dealing with. I can't have her attack something very intrinsic to my identity, something that I am still coming to terms with, actually. I just can't handle yet another attack right now. Just can't handle it. So, that's kind of what I'm processing right now. I don't know. I hope this starts some kind of dialogue. Give me your thoughts and feedback. I'm always willing to answer questions or, have some kind of discussion.